Hello, it's good to be with you. My cat is here too. She may be making noises for us. Just consider them sound effects. Once upon a time, there was a girl that lived with her mama right by the edge of the woods. And mama needed to go to the village to gather supplies. So she turned to her daughter and said, "Daughter dear, I must go to the village to gather supplies. While I am gone, you may stay at home, but be sure you do not go beyond the garden gate, for beyond the garden gate there lurks a Gunny Wolf." Said the girl. "What is a Gunny Wolf?" "Oh, you'll know him if you see him, for he has long, pointy ears, the better to hear you with, and big, round eyes, the better to see you with, and long, sharp teeth, the better to eat you with." "Do not worry, Mamma. I will not go beyond the garden gate, for I do not want to meet the Gunny Wolf." And so Mamma went to the village to gather the supplies that they'd be needing for the week. And the girl did some of her favorite things. First, she went to the bookshelf and she took down some books, and she started reading those books. Now, she didn't know all the words, but that was all right, because she looked at the starting sound and she looked at the ending sound, and sometimes the pictures would give her clues of what those words down there meant. And so she was able to read 10 books. When she was done, she put them back on the bookshelf so she would know where to find them. Then she looked outside her window. Now, it had been raining for a long time, but today was a beautiful day. She looked outside in her garden and she saw colors all over. And so she decided to paint those colors. "I look outside my window, it's a world of color I see. Fiddly-dee outside my window, a world of color I see." At the end, the painting was an explosion of color that stretched from side to side and top to bottom. She hung that painting out to dry, and then she washed her brush so she could use it again tomorrow. Then she looked outside again and she decided that she would go play in her garden. So she went down the stairs, and right at the bottom of the stairs was a mud puddle. Oh, it was muddalicious, it was. She took off her shoes, she took off her socks, pew, and she jumped right in that mud puddle. Ooh, mud oozed up between her toes as she was dancing in that mud. And then in the mud, she saw something that wiggled. She saw something that wriggled. She reached down and she picked up a worm. She put the worm on her hand and it went under one finger and over another, under, over. It wrapped around her wrist, and then it started right up her arm. It started up her arm. Whoa! She reached in and she took that worm out and she put it back down on the ground, and it disappeared in the mud. I wonder where worms go when they disappear in the mud. And that's when she saw her tree. She called it her tree because it was her favorite tree climbing tree. She climbed up that tree and she went out onto the bough of the tree, and the bough of the tree became the bow of a ship. Ahoy, matey, off we sail. And they sailed the 7 seas in a blink of an eye. Pirates tried to board that ship. "I'll have none of that," said she. She took out her sword and she fought those pirates. Blah! Made 'em walk the plank, she did. Splash, splash, splash. And that's when she saw, underneath her tree, there were some little yellow flowers growing. So she dropped down out of that tree, ran to the fence, and reached her arm between the slats of the fence, and she stretched, but her arm wasn't quite long enough. So she went to the garden gate. She unlatched the garden gate. The gate swung open, and she stepped outside. She ran over to where those flowers were growing. She bent down and she picked, and as she picked, she sang. Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, la 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 la. And then she saw some orange flowers just a little further on. So she ran right over there. She bent down and she picked. And as she picked, she sang. Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, la 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 la. A little further on, there were some red flowers. So she ran right over, she bent down and she picked. And as she picked, she sang. Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, la 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 la. Right where the forest met the meadow, there were some purple flowers. So she ran right over, she bent down and she picked, and as she picked, she sang. Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, la 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 la. And that is when she heard it. It was right over her shoulder. She heard. She looked up and she saw there above her, standing over her, was a creature with long pointy ears, the better to hear her with, and big round eyes, the better to see her with, and long sharp teeth, the better to eat her with. It was the Gunny Wolf. And the Gunny Wolf said, "Little girl, I like singing. Sing me that song again." Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, la 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 la. And the Gunny Wolf fell asleep. As soon as the Gunny Wolf fell asleep, the little girl began to run, and she ran pitter-pat, 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 pitter-pat. But it wasn't long before the Gunny Wolf woke up, and he began running after her. Caught the girl and said, "Little girl, I like singing. Sing me that song again." Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, la 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 la. And the little girl, she ran. Pitter-pat, 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 pitter-pat. When the Gunny Wolf woke up, he began running after her. Caught the girl and said, "Little girl, I like singing. Sing me that song again." Kawa, kawi, kawa, kawi, La, 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 la. And the Gunny Wolf and the little girl, she began to run. Pitter-pat, 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 pitter-pat. The Gunny Wolf woke up and began running after her. But she kept running. Pitter-pat, 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 pitter-pat. Pitter-pat, 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 pitter-pat. She ran into the garden. She ran up the stairs. She closed the door, and she... Now that Gunny Wolf, he ran around the outside of that garden gate, but he could not go into the garden because everything inside the garden was safe. And so he went back into the woods. And that girl, she stayed hunkered down until her mama got home. And when her mama got home, she ran to her, threw her arms around her, and squeezed Mama tight. And Mama and the daughter lived happily ever